everybody. My name is Brian Boyles, and I work as a pre-sales and partner enablement consultant at Dynamicweb. And welcome to today's webinar. So, the topic for today's webinar is integrated e-commerce. And I'd like to start off just by putting e-commerce in the spotlight for a minute here. Now, whether or not your organization already has a website, or if you were considering taking that step, you recognize that there are some obvious business benefits of doing e-commerce. One business benefit that leaps to mind is that your customers will have 24/7 access to being able to purchase your products. But of course, there's more to it than just that. As you know, it's not just about supporting the actual transaction. It's about supporting the entire customer journey from awareness to after sales. And for each touch point in your customer journey, you're going to have certain business processes that your business needs to execute on. And examples of these business processes that I'm referring here to could be, for example, entering in your product information so that your customers can learn about the advantages of your products, or could be indicating the availability of your products in terms of stock and lead time so that your customers can make informed purchasing decisions. Third example could be providing your customers with PDF invoices through an online customer center so they could do their accounting. Well, let's face it, some businesses support their customer journey better than others. And incomplete and inefficient business processes can have a direct impact on your customer journey and your customer satisfaction. I'm thinking here about topics like customer acquisition and retention and sales volume. So ultimately, these incomplete and inefficient business processes can have a direct impact on your bottom line. Well, Dynamicweb simplifies e-commerce. So our commerce suite will raise your game as it helps guide you to creating a complete omnichannel e-commerce experience for your customers. And that means that the integrated part in integrated e-commerce is simply one aspect that helps ensure that you reach your e-commerce goals efficiently. And today, I'm going to shed some light on just how. So let's dive in. I'd like to start with a conclusion. So I'm going to give you my takeaways right here at the beginning, up front. And point one that I have is that integrated e-commerce with Dynamicweb efficiently supports a complete customer journey out of the box. And that is to say that we help optimize some common e-commerce business processes. We'll take a look at some of those today. Two, we're talking about a standard integration, and this will help you get out of the gates quickly with a project that is simple and cost efficient. And because it's a proven recipe at a low risk, no matter if you're on an older Navision or Nav, or if you have a newer BC. And it doesn't matter if you're B2B or B2C or D2C. Point number three that I have for you today is, as you continue to grow your business, and you'll be able to further develop your e-commerce solution, as Dynamicweb is a highly customizable platform that can tackle complexity. So it's built to be scaled up. So that's the third point that I have. The way that I'm going to sort of make my points here, I have an agenda that I have up here. First, we're going to look at flow, and I can see that this is actually in error. This is the BC and nav. So I'm just going to go in here and cheat. Just do this. There we go. Problem solved. The e-commerce flow between nav and BC and Dynamicweb. We, as you can see, also have integration with X and F&O. But we're talking nav and BC in this webinar today. And yeah, I'm going to show you how the assets are flowing back and forth. We're going to do so by showing you a model Dynamicweb e-commerce site, sort of a demo site, if you will, that will highlight some of the common business processes that we can help you optimize using our standard features that will ensure this complete customer journey. Second, we're going to dwell just a bit on the topic of standard integration. I mean, what is it? Why is it good? And how is it applicable for your situation? And third, we're going to talk just briefly about what you could expect in terms of project scope, cost, and maintenance. So let's go ahead and get into it. Right, so let me do this. Let me just go to Business Central. Because the thing is, if you're going to make a web shop, you're going to need some products to sell. That's obvious. And if you're going to sell some products, you're going to have those in your ERP in order to be able to keep your books. So right now I'm in Business Central. This could also be for some of you out there, your Navision. So we have basically the same topics I'm talking about are applicable for you guys. And I'm going to go now and just find a product that we're going to have an example. So I'll go into my items area, and then I'm going to go in and find, actually see it right there, the Paris mini speaker. So this will be the example product that we have today. And if I go ahead and click in on the Paris mini speaker, we can see that we have certain information about the Paris mini speaker that we want to obviously use and take into our e-commerce environment. And that is the identification, the name, and the number. And it could as well also be, for example, certain item attributes. We don't have any in this example, but there could be item attributes and otherwise other fields that we want to be able to use when we sell the product directly from the ERP. You know, another topic is that it also may be interesting for you to consider, are the fields that you have about the information of your products in the right place? So you might consider actually migrating some of the fields that you right now are keeping in your ERP and maintaining those in the future in Dynamicweb, where is in particular interesting to consider our Project Information Management module, or PIM module, in that regard. So now let's go to the storefront of Dynamicweb. So what we're seeing here is a bike store selling bikes and other products related to the biking lifestyle. And here I could go in and just show you some of the basic features and the basic build that we have for a website. I could come into a given category and I could then make a nice search. So I was looking for a bike with particular wheel dimension, for example. I hone in on that. I could also here use a free text search. So here at the top, I'm looking for speakers. I might just type in speak. And here you can see we begin to get some results or some suggestions. So it takes into account spelling mistakes and these kinds of things. And it's suggesting maybe something like span speed. What is it you're looking for? And it is indeed finding speaker. And that's because we have that in a couple of our products here. And the speaker we'll be looking at today is the Paris Mini Bluetooth speaker. I just want to look at this briefly. Signed in as a customer without a rebate. And I want to make the point here that, because earlier on I talked about that there are certain fields that we want to get from your ERP system, from Nav or BC. And I'm pulling these in through this batch process. So I'm making a copy of that and having them in Dynamicweb. When it comes to price and stock, we're actually not storing these in our database. We're going directly in and making a request and getting a live update so we can see that we have the prices and the stock directly from Nav or BC. So that's the point I want to make here. Now, if I were to just sign out, I just want to point out really quickly here, this particular setup in this scenario, we've decided that we want to make the products and the information publicly visible, and then we're restricting the prices and we're restricting the ability to purchase to those who are logged in. So this is one option that we typically see in a B2B scenario that we can easily support through a configuration of our system. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign in as my friend Robert here, who I know has a little discount. And what we'll see if I go in and view that speaker from his side is that he indeed does get a discount. So we can see that reflected here. And again, this is something that is calculated and brought in directly from the ERP. So we're relying on the logic of the ERP to reflect this. And that makes it really efficient because I'm not trying to replicate logic two places and reducing the errors that might arise because of that. So really smart there. Let's take a quick look at this speaker in the back end. So if I go into the back end here, with Dynamicweb, this is the administration. I can go into my PIM area and find this under accessories and entertainment. There it is. Here we can see some of the interaction in action. We have the ability to add and enrich, as I say, certain information. So adding an image, for example, adding a name that's more sort of market facing. I could even go in and add different language versions of my products in Dynamicweb. So we can see here we got this translated into Danish, and I might even use Google Translate integration that we have in Dynamicweb to get a head start and start translating some of these to quickly come into different markets. Yeah, and that's just what I wanted to show here at this point. So I was going in a little bit about this price, and I talked about you know, I was in as Robert Towns. What I think we could do now is just take a look over in Business Central and see where this information is coming from. Because if I'm in the customers area here, we will find one of these customers is Additum Corporation, and if I click in there, we'll see that you know, some information about Additum. And notice that they're in a customer price group, A1, and a customer discount group, large account. And these are some of the handles that I'm using in Business Central to make that pricing logic, to figure out what the correct price is for the customer contact here. And I can find that customer contact here under customer contact. And there we can find Robert. And what I just wanted to point out here is that we have information about like his internal number and his name, and also his address, his email, these kind of things. All this information is brought into Dynamicweb, and that's how we're able to calculate, or not really calculate, we're actually sending the context over to Business Central or to Navision and retrieving the actual price that's calculated for him there. So Jan, or I guess it's Robert, he may be still considering his purchase. And he will be using the sophisticated search tools that I showed you and looking and doing some research about which speaker he wants to obtain. And one of the other things he might be doing is using a favorites list. And you can see that we have a little heart icon over here. Of course, I could change the icon to be whatever I'd like. And if I put that try to click the button for that heart, and I'm adding that to a favorites list. So what I want to point out with this is that already at this stage, we're supporting this customer journey in this stage of like understanding the products. And here in the My Account section, we have this area, My Favorites, and you can see that here I'm able to add new favorites lists. And of course, we could call this, you know, my product list, whatever we want to call it. Come in and add a new favorite list and create that. And then what I also could do is I could come in and, you know, add this product to cart directly from this view in the favorites. So that's quite nice. What I'd like to also show you at this point is another feature that is very often very helpful for our customers, especially in a B2B scenario. And that is where I'm actually signing in as a sales representative. So the business process where I have a sales representative logging in on behalf of their customers and helping them with their purchases. So I'll sign in now. And we can see now at the top, I'm signing as Klaus Boyles, and I have this option here to sign in as a customer. When I sign in as a customer, I then have a series of different customers that I'm associated with. And one of them is our friend Robert here. So I'll go and type him in. And you can see now here at the top, Klaus Boyles is signed in as Robert. And what I could then do is work on behalf of Robert and maybe work with his favorites list. So if I come into his favorites list, I can see maybe I could add new products and suggest that to him here. But what I might also do is like say, you know, you, Robert, you need to have 2 of these, I think. So I'll just put another one in your shopping basket, and thereby I've just doubled the revenue. So that was nice. Thank you very much, Klaus. And that's enough for now. So I'll just sign out as Klaus, and I'm going to sign back in as Yan. We'll continue from there. Not Yan, Robert. Robert Towns. There we go. Great. So back to Robert. He's got a shopping basket that's all set up. He's got the 2 items. They're the calculation again for the prices, not only the prices, but the entire order is actually retrieved from Business Central and brought back to Dynamicweb. So we're relying on that logic again, which is saving, reducing risk and making for a more efficient process altogether. And now I just want to point out there is one option here that we have in this model setup where I can actually request a quote. And what that means is I could go in and maybe have a collection of different products that I want to retrieve some kind of a quote on. So that would be one option of how I could interact with a sales situation. But for now, we're just going to go for a regular checkout. So I'll go checkout. And the first thing we're going to be addressing is what information I need to have in order to ship. So here we have a billing address and we have the topic of the shipping address. That's what we have on this first page. And all this information, we'll recognize this test station road or whatever, is coming from the ERP system, from Business Central, directly in. So now I'm going to go to next stage, which is delivery. And here at this point, I'm choosing how it's going to be sent. And typically here, you'll have a little bit of difference depending on the country that you're being sending to. And it could be the case that you're just choosing the method of sending and then relaying that over to the ERP. But in other situations, we want to make an integration to a shipping provider to retrieve the different drop points that might be available, especially in a business to consumer scenario where they're choosing GLS or something of that nature. So that's an option here. And you'll also see I'm selecting a delivery date. So select a date in the future or a specific delivery date. If I go to the next step, we are on the topic of payment. As far as payment goes, Dynamicweb has integrations with numerous payment gateways and payment providers that allow us to authorize and or reserve payment for numerous payment methods, such as credit cards or PayPal. And now we'll see here that I've got these different fields here for order reference and comments. And then we also have this up here, this add voucher. These 3 are all examples of aspects of building the checkout flow, which has otherwise, been done for you here. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have this nice flow here ready for our customers that we could then adjust and configure. That is to say, the reference order, if we don't need that, we can just simply, with a checkbox, remove that. And the same goes for the voucher. So that's just to point that out. So now at this point, I'm going to accept the terms and conditions, and then I'm going to go ahead and place this order. All right, and so what we'll be seeing here is that we have an order number, that's the internal order number, and then we have an order number, which is the order number that is created in Business Central. And of course, we get a confirmation email from Dynamicweb, and we're otherwise rolling here. So if I go back into our Business Central, I will go into sales and sales orders. And then I'll find that order that I just placed here, and we'll see, it's coming in for the Additive Corporation. It's the 2 mini speakers, and it's got a unit price that's $300, but it's got a 20% line discount because he's logged in as someone from there. And there I go. I have that information in Business Central, ready to move on. Now, finally, back in the storefront here, or and actually in the customer center, I'm going to go in, still as Robert, into the My Orders area. And what we'll notice is that I have a historic overview of the orders that I put in. And there's several different things that I could show you at this point. I just want to kind of finish off this demonstration with a couple here. You notice I have 0 products in my cart now, but based on this order that I previously made, I can actually reorder by just clicking on this icon, and then it comes back in. And in that sense, we're facilitating a nice functionality where, particularly in business-to-business scenarios, I've made purchases in the past. I want to use that as a starting point and then adjust maybe the quantities and what I need. So that's a nice feature there, it's populating that cart. Another one that we have that's right up here is Express Buy. So what I could do here is type in, again, using that sort of search functionality that we saw when I was in the storefront looking for the product in the first place. I'm able to then go in, and when I know product numbers, when I know the names or the keywords I'm looking for, it's a very, very efficient way. So I can just go in and say, yeah, sounds good. I'll take 200 of those and 300 of these, and add that to the basket, and starting to have a nice business there. So that's good. So this was all on the topic of explaining the flow of how between Nav and BC and Dynamicweb this is flowing, this information, and how we're utilizing the logic from both systems to make an optimal business process to create that complete customer journey. Now let's talk a little bit. Let's change gears. I'm going to go back to the slide deck, and let's talk about standard integration for a second. Now I have this schematic up on the page, and don't worry so much about this. I'm not going to get into the gory details. And in fact, if you followed along with the demonstration that I just gave you, you already intuitively understand all these arrows and boxes here. But I do want to point out one thing, and that is that we have a Dynamicweb plugin, which is located in your BC or in your Nav environment. And this is a piece of software that you install. In fact, what I can do is I can just show you here on Microsoft App Source, which is a store. You can see Microsoft App Source is a store for all the plugins and add-ins, if you will, that you could add into your Business Central environment. And it's right here, the Dynamicweb all-in-one platform that enables this functionality. But if we go back to the slide, you say, well, that's fine, but Brian, but what is it? What does this do? And let me just explain real briefly here. It is basically a translator. So that means we could make a request and ask for information. For example, give me all of your users to Business Central or Navision, and then we retrieve an answer in a format that we understand. So it's that kind of translator function. And it also has a dimension of security. So we want to naturally make sure that this is done in a secure way where we're conveying this information in sort of how to say, encrypted format. Yeah. Well, that's all well and good, but there is a little problem with this because it doesn't really get us all the way where we need to be. Because the fact of the matter is, it's super that you can get the information from one system over to another, and then you can get it translated. But the problem then becomes, what do you do with this information? It's not enough just to get it. And that brings me to the point that I have on the next slide, and that is that we have a home for your data. And what I mean to say here is, not only can we speak the language of BC and Navision, we also know the data and we are utilizing the data. What that means is the ERP, say Nav and Business Central, has a series of different assets that are relevant to e-commerce. Dynamicweb, naturally as an e-commerce software, also has a place for these functions. And not only that, we've actually mapped table for table, field for field, where these different assets belong. What that means is we basically have a preset or a recipe for a finished standard integration that we could load right in. And as you see on the overview here on the right, it's not just about your users and your products. There's also different assets here, like your currencies and countries and languages and stuff, that are assets you have in your ERP that we want to make use of in order to get out of the gates as fast as we can. And the idea, as I said, in the main points, the main takeaways here, is that we want to get everyone to this, this baseline integration, you could call it. And that is a good use of resources. That means that instead of a big project to get this far, you're putting in the time and the effort into doing those special features, those custom aspects that makes your business process different from other companies. So we can do that in a way in Dynamicweb where we're making extensions on the functionality and adding in, for example, custom fields, and that's where we're addressing this topic of customization rather than here this basic stuff. And that's why I'm able to say that we're able to leverage and utilize standard integration no matter who our customer is. It's relevant for all of them. In closing, I want to talk a little bit about what you might expect in terms of the scope of a project with Dynamicweb. This is kind of a list of information that we've collected from some of the experiences that we've had with some of our typical customers. So we're looking here at total hours, not only for the standard integration part, but actually the entire project that we typically see. So we could be talking something in like a medium or large, typically when we talk about NAV and BC customers, Business Central. And here we're including doing some branding, that's to say to make a website using the corporate visual identity that you have as a company, and also doing the e-commerce part. So it could be B2B, or perhaps in a bit of a larger scenario, you might have B2B and B2C. And then PIM, which is an optional add-on. But PIM has a really important function for a lot of our customers because it allows them to be able to ingest information and then have a workflow to make sure that the information that they have that they want to put on the website is valid and complete. And this is really important. It also has a nice benefit of being able to send this information to different sales channels aside from your website. But that, I guess, would be a topic for another webinar. But that's also something that's included in some of these prices. And we can see, it could be the 200 to 500 hour range, or maybe 500 to 1,000 hour range. I just have a few of our references here up on screen. So here in closing, we have a lot of nice references. So please, if you're interested, get in contact with us, and we'd love to discuss with you a little bit further about your situation. And I think there's really nothing other to say than to just give you my contact information and to invite you to get in touch with me if you have any questions at all about the content that I've given you during this presentation, or indeed about any other topics related to your project. I showed you a little bit of an indication on, the price of how, not the price, but the scope of how some of your projects might look. But naturally, you'll be curious to get a little bit more of an indication about, what kind of price you'd be looking at, and also how maintenance works, and other topics like what would be the cost of the subscription of the software. So these are topics we'd love to engage with you in a dialogue. So please feel free to get in contact with us. And that being said, I will just say thank you for your attention, and thank you for attending today's webinar. And goodbye until next time.